In this video, we're going to create various shapes in Scratch. Okay, in one video, we've already created a square before, but I'm actually going to redraw it just so that we have a bit of practice, and it'll kind of be our foundation for creating the other shapes. So I'm going to go back into the pen, and we want to make sure our pen is down. That just makes sense. So we're going to do some motion. We're going to be moving across. So we're going to move, and you can keep it 10 spots, but it's not very far, so I probably will change that. I'm going to make it to maybe something like 50 for now. And I do recognize that this is a square, so I'm going to have to turn it at a 90-degree angle. Okay. Now, since it is a square and I want to be efficient, let's say in my coding where I don't have to repeat this 4 times, I'm actually going to go to Control and we'll do repeat, and that will be 4 times. And we'll attach that. Now, before I get much further, I want to make sure I have my coding set up to clear things up. So clear the stage. So a quick way of doing that is going to my events. I like using the space bar so it doesn't interfere with my green red flag if I end up using that for later on for my shapes. So when the space bar is pressed, I want to make sure my pen is up. And I'm going to clear the screen, clear the stage. And maybe we want to reset our position as well. So I'm going to go to Motion and Reset. Perfect. X is 0, Y is 0. Sounds good to me. Okay, so let's test how we're doing here. Okay, so very fast. So if you recall, we may want to get in here and we'll want to put a weight. Let's see what it looks like if we just do it here. So first I'm going to clear the screen by pressing the space bar and double click. Excellent. Okay, great. So just before I leave this and move on to other shapes, just a few options here if you want to play around. You can change your set pen color to different colors here. So I can do that and make it green. I can also change the pen shade. I can change the pen color by various degrees of the green or blue, whatever colors you pick, which is really awesome. And I really like to change the pen size as well. So I can change it so that it's thicker. So say I do a 3, and now I have green, so if I press the space bar, and now quickly, let's just test to see how this looks. And there we go. And I can just move my sprite out of the way, and I have my box, I have my square. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's move on to other shapes. So I'm just gonna, actually, you know what, we can just right click, and let's clean up. Then we have our code nicely out of the way order. And you could do a comment, of course, and indicating what shape is what. So if we want to do a triangle, and that would be our next thing, so I'm just going to clear our stage for a moment and we reset the cat. It's going to be a little bit different. We need to do very similar to the square. So let's right click all of this first. We can change the pen color this here. This is not really important to me at this point. I just want to make sure that we're talking about a triangle and how does that look. So moving 50 steps, that's fine. It's going to be just distance. But we have to talk about the angle. If we're going 90 degrees, not such a great idea. But something like 120 degrees and repeat 3 times. Now this could be a great conversation you can have in class. Why 120 degrees? That is an obtuse angle, but you'll have to think about the rotation of 120 degrees and what angle is left inside. So let's draw this, and hopefully you get an idea of where I'm going with this. And I'll just move this guy out of the way, and here we have our triangle. It looks pretty perfect, and I could be using air quotes here for perfect, and I'm going to leave this conversation with you and your teacher because you can discuss what exactly that means. All right, I can just press the space bar and we'll clear that, and of course if I want to make that triangle bigger or any of these shapes bigger, I just have to move more steps. Now let's do a different shape. Let's look at something a little bit different in terms of a pentagon. So I'm going to copy this coding right here. I'm going to right click, duplicate, and you'll get the idea where if we had a square and we repeated our movements 4 times, because there's 4 sides, we get that. Triangle, 3 sides, again, repeat 3 times. So if we're now talking about a pentagon, we are going to have this for 5 sides. And we can keep the 50, but I think in this case I'd like to change things up a little bit, maybe make things a little bit bigger. Let's go 75 steps. And the 120 degrees is not going to work for us here. We could try this out. I'll show you what this looks like for now. But before I do, I'm just going to quickly talk about the set pen color, because you're probably wondering how we got this green. So when you're looking at this, oh, it's just going to go now. It's automatically, let me just go over here. When you click on this, you can scroll over. Let me see how this is going to work without activating it again. I want to make sure when I scroll over, there we are. See, when I clicked on that, it went from a pointer to a hand. And if I'm scrolling over this screen right here, it's like a grayish. But if I go over this, we get the green. If I go over the cat, I'm going to get the orange. And if I go over, let's say here, we can get our blue. So I'm going to grab that blue. So I just wanted to quickly talk about that. Okay, so let's clear this space bar. And take a look. He's not reset in terms of, he's an X and 0, but this actually brings up a really good point about pointing in the direction of 90 degrees. So I'm going to go to motion for a minute. So I'm really glad that actually happened. So pointing direction of 90 degrees is something else I'm going to want to maybe add here. And it really shouldn't matter in the order of X, Y first or the 90 degrees first. So if I press the space bar now, voila, facing in the right direction. So let's now double click on this and let's see what happens, because we have the 120 degrees. We have it now changed for 5 times. So we're ideally trying to get that pentagon. So double click. Okay, so you should have noticed creating a triangle still, because we're still doing 90 degrees, but they just went over the same triangle various times. All right, space bar. Let's fix this. You have to come up with an angle that's going to work best here. And again, this is a great conversation to have with your teacher. What kind of angle do you need for him to rotate, but then to get that internal angle that you're looking for? And in this case, we're going to have that perfect pentagon. I'm going to give you the 72 degrees. And let's double click. Okay, let's move them out of the way. Very nice. Okay, again, great conversation to have with your teacher about what are the angles and the internally there on that shape, and what do they even add up to. So many great math conversations that you could have. Okay, it actually almost killed me for me to give you that 72 degrees. But don't worry, you'll probably have some more shapes that you're going to create where you have to come up with what that angle needs to be. Okay, so now you've created our triangle, we've done a square, and you've done a pentagon. I'm going to leave it there. Maybe you can go on and try to create a hexagon at this point. And we have a challenge possibly coming up down the road too, where we're going to try to create different shapes.